Hey everyone, welcome back to I Would Like to Have a Conversation. Ruby, say hello.
Hello.
Theo, say hello.
Hello.
And today I was talking with,
Todd.
I was talking with Todd, and we talked today about our favourite books. What our favourite books are at the moment, what we're currently reading, what we read in the past. That was really good. And we shared them all through the podcast, and then we sort of finished off with like a bit of a reflection on parenting and what it's like. What do you think about that?
Cool.
Super cool. What are we doing this Saturday?
Athletics.
Athletics every Wednesday. Boom. You want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Hey everyone, welcome back to I Would Like to Have a Conversation, and back here with Todd. And true to form, we were just talking off air before. We didn't really want to know what we wanted to talk about today. So we're going to go with sharing our favorite books.
Let's go.
At the moment. They could be like self-help, non-fiction, or whatever, really. Did you want to go first? Talk about the one you're kind of reading now, because we're just talking about them.
Yeah.
What's your favorite book, or the book you're into?
Yeah. So I think a little background. I think just like everybody else, for the most part, I didn't enjoy reading when I was forced to read. So a lot of like the stuff that I read in high school, I didn't enjoy because it was a project for a class. And I just found my love of reading right around the same time that I started working on myself, if you will. So about 8 years ago is when I think I always had a book before that. But currently right now I'm reading a phenomenal series. It's a 6-book series by Alan Eckhart. A friend of mine turned me on to it. The book that he was reading called The Frontiersman. And I don't believe you have to read it in any particular order, but there is an order as far as like the timeline. And so so each book, essentially what it does is there are going to be two kind of main characters, one from like the Indian or Native American, and I'm finding out that they prefer to be called Indians, I guess. But there's usually one main character that's an Indian, and one main character that is like a white settler, or somebody within our history, maybe a hero that we know of, or maybe that we don't know. But essentially what this is it follows everything from like the settlement of the Ohio and Kentucky area all the way through the even the Revolutionary War, the American Indian War, the War of 1812. And we got to see some really cool. And so this is it's fictional history. All right, so there's a lot of it is like nonfiction, so the actions, the events are real, the people are real. But what this guy does a great job of doing is like filling in the spaces. So he does tell stories that probably aren't like 100% true per se. I just want to give an example. So I'm the part that I'm reading right now. So it's taking place in more of the Illinois country, and there are the Sac and Fox tribes, and one of the main Indians is named Blackhawk. And so right now the US is starting to like really occupy a lot of like the Illinois territory, and they're creeping and we can talk about all the different treaties that were created over time and how the white man kind of finagled themselves like and basically took the land through the wording of some of these treaties. Well, what's happening is as the whites are encroaching on like on Indian land or pushing them further west, there are some rebellious, I guess, depending on how you're looking at it, that could be the term, but rebellious tribes that are now pushing back. And currently right now, the Black Hawk and his like band of Indians are making these small little raids and hits on white settlements. So during this time, when he shares these stories, which are things that have taken place, but within the story are these little micro stories that he kind of makes up. So I don't know if I know Blackhawk is a real person, but I don't know if like some of these other characters are technically real. But like he'll bring in these people who then he'll start sharing from like their perspective and almost like from their narrative. And it's really interesting because obviously he wasn't there, and the only thing that he really has access to are either diaries or correspondence between some of the generals and some of the governors and things like that. So, you know, so he actually brings in like real inserts from some of those correspondences, and which is really cool. So you get to actually see what like a general's writing to like even the president of the United States, and how like news is making its way back to, you know, Washington D.C., and then, you know, how they're trying to, you know, take care of all these Indians on the frontier. But within it, these stories that he tells are, you know, he tells of, you know, these certain people or characters within the story, and he does such a great job. Like when you're reading it, you're like, this is fantastic. I feel like you've read everyone's diary, and
Ha!
you're writing from like, you're telling their story that they told through a diary is really what it feels like. But I imagine there's some of these like little things that he's making up. So that's what I've been really working on over the past year, as far as my my leisure reading, if you will. So I'm fascinated by history. I'm fascinated certainly by like Indian history. I really, I know, I just love it. I love like, because it goes so much for the United States and the West over here. There's so much like history that I think gets, and I forget the term, maybe it's whitewashed. The term, you know, and you know, I think, and I get why. Like we don't want to, you know, admit that we literally systematically eliminated these people, um, but it's just, it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating their culture and how they dealt with things, and the hierarchies within their culture. All that stuff is just really, really cool. And this guy just does a fantastic job of, and it was written back in like the 70s or 80s. So it's not something that's like something that was just released, but really well done. And I guess I'll leave it at that if you have any questions. But yeah, it's like it's like a 5 or 6 book series. I think I've got one more left, but it's something I read about, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 chapters a night. And I, it takes a really good like leisure book to like pull me in and keep me there. And the first one did such a great job that I just, you know, I bought all 6, and it's just been awesome.
That's pretty good. So I think like that reminds me of a book. Like it's similar but not. Yeah, have you read World War Z?
No, I've seen the movie.
So yeah, the book is like 10 times better than the movie. Like it would you wouldn't be able to turn the book into a movie because it's kind of like all these contained stories, like journals and
Okay.
stuff of like what people were going through while the zombie attack happened. So I found that super interesting, only in a sense because it's like they're kind of like all short stories, but they all add together for the big overarching story. So again, yeah, if you like zombie stuff, that could be your jam. It's a good book. It's good fun.
I'm watching The Walking Dead right now, so
From the start,
yeah, I've never seen it.
oh, it's going to take a while. It's good though. I loved it up until like the last 3 seasons.
Okay.
So you got a while.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So my book series, I would say, let's turn around and look at them. The Stephen Pressfield
Ooh.
series, where it's like the War of Art, turning pro, put your ass where your heart wants to be is another one. People don't want to read your shit is another book. They're all kind of like the same sort of series, but I just like his style of writing. Where it's very punchy. Most of his non-fiction books, which is totally different to his fiction books, like Gates of Fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like that's a massive book and it's awesome about the story of 300.
Yeah.
But his non-fictiony, like self-helpy books, they're like a chapter is a page, and you can read it and then go to the next page. So that's why I like them. I can get in a page every day and still feel like you're moving through it. And they just hit hard. They always hit hard for me when I'm feeling like a bit of a space cadet. I lean back into Turning Pro. Like it's on my desk now. I'll flick it open and just read a chapter, and I get back into whatever I need to get back into, which is cool. What's your next one?
Oh Lord. Man, I'm gonna have to look around. I don't know. It's like actually the one right here, which you ever the art of racing in the rain?
Nah, never heard of
Oh man, it's it's written from a dog's perspective.
it.
Fascinating
That's
book.
cool.
Very heart wrenching. I believe there was a movie about it. Maybe. I think it was
Was that like the whole series of like A Dog's Purpose, A Dog's Life, and
maybe.
all those dog movies coming out?
Maybe I think maybe like Marley and Me was named like that book.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, really fantastic book. Like that one was really good because it was again through the dog's perspective. So, which is like incredibly hard to like write a book. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so pretty nuts. I don't remember like the take home from it. I love dogs. The companionship that you get from dogs is just who man unmatched, as far as the love, the loyalty, and so that hit
Mm.
really hard for me when we ended up losing the last dog that we had last year. But dogs have always been a big part of my life, and so we had a Rottweiler that that we lost like 2.5 years ago, and then American Bulldog that we lost last year, and both lived really long lives for their breeds. So our Rottweiler lived about 12 years, and our Bulldog lived about 15, 16 years. So I think it's just I I'll kind of I listen to this podcast with this a divorce attorney, okay, and
Mm.
he's he spoke like he spoke about like this idea when we go through life, like the reason why we end up the depth at which we experience sadness and loss, right, is equivalent to like the amount of love that we felt for this dog or this person, right? When we experience sadness,
Mm.
I think that's a really cool reframe for people. It's like, hey, it's okay to be really really sad that you lost this person, but as you're navigating this loss and this frustration and anger or whatever it is, remember that these are emotions that are all equivalent to like the love and joy that this thing brought you or this person brought you.
Mm.
And I really liked that reframe from him. And he said, as humans, like, and he talked about his own dog and how much love he has for his dog. And he's like, what's crazy is as humans, we will do that multiple times in our life, knowing that the hurt is coming, knowing
Yeah.
that like death is final, and most of the time this dog is not going to outlive you. And yet we still go through this process of getting another one, falling deeply in love with it, and then knowing that we're going to lose it someday, and telling ourselves we're never going to get another dog. And yet, here we are getting
Yeah.
another dog. So yeah, great book, and just putting it all in perspective in regards, and why I really like that aspect of it.
Oh, no, that's cool. There's a dog, Indy. When she passed away, I was a wreck for like a week, and like, we're not getting another dog. We got a dog in like 2 days. Didn't last very long.
It didn't last very long. Oh man.
My next book is we'll bring it up.
Let's go. Let's see it.
The two,
Oh yeah.
Boo Boo by Cheese and Out of the Maze, and then probably even this one, which I just picked up, which I've read on Kindle before, but I wanted to read it in person. Spencer Johnson, like his books, back in the time, that sounds bad, when most self-help books were written through story, where there's always a story instead of just like stuff just getting thrown at you. You need to do this shit. They tell a story, create characters. Like this is all about mice in a maze, and the stuff you learn through the story just tends to stick better. I remember Dan John talking about this before. He was like, if you ever want to teach anyone anything, teach it through story. And I was thinking about it, like a lot of the self-help books I've read that are newer don't stick around in my head that long because they're not stories, but all the story ones I go back to. So, like even the other one, he's got ones called the 1 minute. He's just the 1 minute manager guy is where he come from. And the 1 minute father and the 1 minute mother are cracking books.
Really? I haven't read those.
Like they're so good, and just a really cool concept on like he calls it reprimand. Like remember, this is back in the early 80s, late 70s. So he calls it reprimand, but puts it into a way of doing it where like you're putting bumpers up for kids in a way that's safe, but it's not turning it into this massive rant where you're just going off at your kid and they've already switched off.
Right.
So it's like the reprimand is like a minute, and then you wait a little bit, and then you give them a minute of praise afterwards and tell them like how good of a kid they are. You just did this one silly thing. Let's not do that again. And it talks about how if you do that over and over again, it just builds kids with massive confidence because he's a psychologist. So yeah, it's those one minute father, 1 minute mother books are great. But yeah, anything by him is really good if you can find it. It's getting harder to find them, but these two are easy to find. You can get them anywhere. Who Moved My Cheese? Out of the Maze are very good stories.
It's interesting you bring that up because right now, like, well, even post election time, but during the election, everybody's trying to like convince the other person of like these facts. It's like no one ever changed their mind even off facts. Like they changed their mind through taking these facts and applying them, and integrating them into a story. And then stories, like you had said, are bound to move people and shift people more so than just trying to yell facts at them. So I love it.
Yeah. On that, speaking of your election, not getting political, but I'm reading a book called, and another one that was really hard to find. It was adapted from a workshop. The guy doesn't write anymore, but it's Forbidden Persuasion. And this guy went and studied persuasion for so long, and he's like pulled in stories from what cult leaders did, what politicians do, and how you could use it to, like how everyone uses persuasion, but how you can do it for the right thing and how these people did it for the wrong thing and what things you can learn from it. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Like I've got to go through it a couple of times, I think, to unpack it. There's like nuggets the whole way through. But yeah, when I was just reading it and just thinking about the election over in the States, I was just like, oh, wow. You can see it. When I read now, I'm reading it, I can see it everywhere.
Yeah, both sides too.
No, yeah. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm throwing stones.
No, I didn't think you were, but
shit that much.
It's crazy. Yeah. We don't need to get into that, but
nah, we could go for it.
Oh my gosh. I said my piece last week, I think. That's how I feel about these two groups of people who are like fighting each other, and that's the problem. Is we just remain fighting, Oh man, because all the ones that I'm like the self-help ones, quote unquote, I'm all reading at home. So let me see if there's anything up here. Gosh,
I've got a couple more I can go with. What are you thinking?
Yeah, there's so many that I just haven't read either. They're all just sitting up here. But
have you read like those? There's those books that everyone's sort of brought out where it's like, you read a page a day and it's got the date and you read the page on there. So I got the Daily Dad.
I got that, yeah.
By who's it by?
It's
Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday. Yep.
Yeah. So the Daily Dad and the Daily Stoic, they're really good books. I go just for like snippets.
Right.
Snippets. You can just get in and read the page and feel good and move on, or just have a good thought. I use it for creativity. And the other one is the Daily Laws by Robert Greene, which is I've got his concise laws of human nature, which is like human behavior and how it works. That's also another good book. But the Daily Laws takes all of Robert Greene's books, like the 40 Laws of Power and all that kind of stuff, and the 50th Law and all that kind of, bring them all down into these daily little snippets you can take, and it references which book it comes from, and you can go find it in those books. Very cool. Mine tend to be at the moment, the things that are sticking for me book-wise are things that are easy to read and very quick. Like you can get in, read something quickly, and then move on to whatever you got to move on. You don't have to sit down. Like there's a few books I've got here which I haven't even touched yet. Yeah, the Feel Good Productivity that come out, like Ali Abdaal. I've got that. I haven't touched it.
Yeah.
He's like, everyone says you should get it. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, got it. Haven't touched it.
Well, I have there's one right at the top right there. All right. I read it in high school, and the reason why I was intrigued is because the story starts in upstate New York. And interestingly enough, I read it before I ended up going to college here, but it started in where I went to college in Elford, New York. And so there was a guy who wanted, I think it was like during the Vietnam War, and it was like maybe a slight protest to the Vietnam War. I can't 100% remember, but he basically was like, he wanted to know like what America was like. He wanted to meet people. He wanted to talk to them. I think it had something to do with the Vietnam War, and he was just bent out of shape about it. And so anyways, someone had talked to him. They said, well, why don't you go travel around the United States and meet these people? And so he actually, like, with him and his dog, walked all the way like down like the eastern, I don't want to say right on the seaboard, but I think he went down some of the Appalachian Trail. But like he went down through some of the mountains in like West Virginia and Virginia, North Carolina. He walked into some towns where people did not want him there. They threatened him because like as he started getting into the South, like he had like long hair and he's a little bit more hippie like. And in the South, like they weren't having that. They still had kind of the spillover from being semi-racist, if you will, and yeah. And then he actually he wrote. It's the reality. I mean, it doesn't mean all the South was, but there's an energy around it. At least like when I read and learn about history and watch these videos on YouTube about like the Civil War. It's an energy. It's an idea, right? That like these people didn't want to give up their slaves. And anyways, really cool just journey, the people that he met, the things that he encountered, how he navigated it, how he lived basically almost city to city or town to town, like making a little bit of money here and there. There's one black family that he ended up like living with for a short period of time while he could make some money. And just like I don't know. It was really refreshing at the time, and then I reread it this past year because I wanted to be reminded of the adventure behind it, the bravery of doing something like that. I mean, this day and age, who knows, if that's even possible, to go from city to city and just try to meet people and understand who they are, and it was really fascinating. So, but
it's kind of like ultimate freedom. Because I've got like this cat laughs at me all the time, and this sounds really bad, but when we talk about like the wars and stuff going on, and it could be like World War III and everything would be done, she always looks at me and she goes, "This is exactly what you want, where you could just cruise around. There's no money, no power. You can just live off the land and just go hunt shit." And I'm like, "Yep,
sign me up."
Pretty much. It would be like cool, and everyone's like, "Just go do it." I'm like, just like, like what's that movie? Captain Fantastic. Have you seen that? Where it's got Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragon. Took his wife died, so he took his kids up into the mountains. They just lived off grid. Like he had like 6 kids. They sprint up the hill every morning. They hunt for their food. They do all this stuff, and he teaches them, like he schools them and everything. And they come back into society to see their family and stuff. And then yeah, it's a cracking movie.
Mr. Fantastic,
worth a watch. Captain Fantastic, I think it's called. So I've got another one.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever read any of Joshua Metcalf's books?
No.
So he's a performance and mindset coach, but he wrote a bunch of books through story. So one of his books is called, it was actually got given to me by the Inner Circle guys when I worked for them. It was a mindset book, Chop Wood, Carry Water. And it's a fantastic book. And then the other one's called Win in the Dark. There's actually 3. I'll see if I can find the other one. But Chop Wood, Carry Water is amazing. And then, he's got heaps. Hack, Scratch. Pound the Stone. Very, very good one. And then Win in the Dark. They're all the same kind of concepts. It's like, I love the Win in the Dark theory. I say it every time I get on the treadie. The Win in the Dark, like do the work when no one else is doing the work. and it's about the little things.
Oh man.
The simple shit just keeps showing up. But the stories is cool. So Chop Wood, Carry Water is based on like samurais and samurai archery. I think just got to remember like Win in the Dark and Pound the Stone. They're like, one of them is about diving and the other one's about, I can't remember what the other one's about. I haven't listened to that one in a while. Basketball, actually. So one's about basketball and one's about diving. But it's all the same kind of message where it's like, are you doing the work and you're collecting the proof
Okay.
to be the person you want to be? Very cool. Very good in Audible too. So I read them and put them in Audible as well, and they're just good to listen to while running or training or whatever. Very, like, I recommend them to anyone. Like, do you want to get a bit pumped up to do shit? Any one of those three: Chop Wood, Carry Water, Pound the Stone, Win in the Dark. They're really cool books. And I just realized he's released another one, which I'm going to check out.
Yeah.
Finish Empty. That looks cool.
All right.
The Burn Your Goals one is also another really good book.
I'm just trying to put them all on the.
Yeah. It's like add to cart.
Yep. Wait a minute. What was this latest one?
Finish Empty by the looks of it. I'm just checking the date.
Huh. I don't see it on there.
Where are you? Yeah. It just come out this year. 21st of July. I'll send it to you. I'm going to add it to my cart too.
I don't see it on my Amazon. It's by Joshua Metcalf?
Yep.
Oh, I think I just saw it.
Yeah, they're good books. And there's like...
There it is. Okay.
Following on from that, do you remember Martin Rooney, the Training for Warriors guy?
No.
Did you ever do turbulence training back in the... Not turbulence training, hurricane training back in the day?
No. What's that?
It's like a style of training which he created for UFC fighters, where you do like usually like it's a strength movement with a weight, and it's like a body weight movement. Then you do some kind of like cardio exercise. Okay. And he's got like different, like Hurricane's got different categories. He's got like category 1, category 2. That was super fun, like really fun kind of workouts. I actually found my book on Hurricane training the other day, and I was like, I'm going to do these. These are fun. Let's
add it to the volume.
Yeah. Just bringing up his books. He wrote 2 recently, which were just bangers. I just got to try and remember what they are. I think it's like High 10 was one.
And who is this again?
Martin Rooney. Got him. Yeah, High 10, and there's a sequel to it, or there was a prequel, one or the other. Yeah, Coach to Coach and High 10. Those 2 books. For anyone who's a coach or anyone who wants to be a coach or become a coach or whatever, they are the same thing as like the Spencer Johnson books.
Got it.
They're story-driven personal development. And they're very, very fun books to read. And those 2 books are around the art of coaching.
Okay.
And the concepts that they teach in that are so good.
Rock on. I think I had mentioned the one that I was reading last time. I can't remember if it was off or on, but the one I'm currently reading that was recommended to me for like the sales process is Pitch Anything. So it's a guy who has is basically goes into some very high stressful, a lot of stakes, and he's pitching, for investments and things like that. And so I'm not all the way through it. He's talking about, I'm just getting into like and this may turn some people off, but it's not so much in the context of, I think what we perceive as like alpha and beta and how they can be like derogatory in a sense. But the reality is they're, in any social situations, there are alphas and betas. And I'll share this really cool story that he talked about and why even like, why these things don't have to hold like a negative connotation per se. But there's also, and you may be able to help me because I think you mentioned like knowing or that you had maybe read the book or knew of it. But there's also no, I can't 100% remember. Like I'm trying to because I went through that part of it. And now I'm just so stuck on the alpha and beta. But what was he? Why can't I think of it? I had taken some notes, but he actually just told this really cool story where he was taking like some people out to dinner, and it was like in Paris and at this really high end restaurant, and he told this beautiful story about how the waiter really took over like frame control and the alpha aspect of things. So when he walked in there, he was like, "Oh, I'm paying the bill," and he was kind of walking around with this little attitude. And from the very beginning, these people like knew just how to shut these people down. So this guy's like, "Oh, I'm paying," and he had a little chip on his shoulder. And even from the very beginning, it's just understanding these like social cues, or that like these games are being played whether we realize it or not. And if you realize that they're being played, then you might as well play the games to like get what you want out of life. And again, like you said, not necessarily for bad, but for good. And so the story goes where like this restaurant, instead of being like, "Oh, your table's ready," because he had a reservation, they made him wait 15 minutes. Right. So this person who thought he was all big, high and mighty, going to drop a lot of money, all of a sudden gets told, "All right, wait over there. Like, we're the alphas." And then fast forward, like he's in there, and the waiter actually kind of pulled a trick on him. Before he even ordered, he was like, "Well, what kind of bottle of wine would you like?" And in hindsight, the guy realized like he set him up because he wanted to kind of the waiter wanted to knock him down because this guy thought he was all big, bringing these people to this restaurant and all that. So the guy was like, "Oh," basically the waiter was like, "Well, that's not going to be a good bottle of wine because you haven't ordered anything yet and we don't know what you're going to be eating." And so there was just all these like very high end like tricks being, like these games being played.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it reminds me of the show Billions.
Yeah.
Like
Good show.
What a different game being played with those people, right? When you see them, dialogue and interact, like they're on this like different level. And there's something about that. Like there's something about like understanding the world in such a deep level and understanding all these things that you're playing a different game than anybody else, and that's really cool.
Yeah. It reminds me of when I was working in the sales sniper course and learning sales when I was doing high ticket sales stuff and watching the guys who were at the top tier play when they would play us replays of them selling people who would spend 40 and what those calls were like. And like you said, holding frame and shifting frame and stuff like that, which is a normal part of human behavior, which is a normal part of persuasion too, which is people think is kind of dirty. It's kind of like, I like what you said. It's kind of either you let the game play you and be persuaded into buying shit that you don't need, or you learn how to play the game and learn how to hold frame and what that would mean, which is like that Chris Voss book, Never Negotiate the Difference, or Don't Negotiate the Difference. I can't remember what it's called. Never Split the Difference. Yeah. Same kind of thing. But that book's good for people who want to be able to hold their own in a conversation better, so their voices get heard. That's the way I like to look at it. So it's just so you're heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that book. I was trying to think what my non-fiction, fiction book series writer, Matthew Reilly. Have you heard of Matthew Reilly? He's an Aussie guy. I think he lives in the States though, but he's an Aussie writer, and he writes I call it like Hollywood action movie books, where you might not be able to go a page without something blowing up. So he's got like these two series. So he's got the Scarecrow series, which is about a special forces operator, and the series of that is like starts really small and it gets into just like this epic thing by the end of I think it's like the fourth or fifth book. So that's like a special forces kind of orientated one, and the story is like watching like a Hollywood movie. And the other one is like Jack West Jr., which is my favorite series, where it's kind of like Indiana Jones, but in modern times, and saving the world from like end of times and stuff like that, and going through the mazes and the pyramids, and the Scarecrow character comes through that series for a bit and then disappears, and they're just like, I go back and read them all the time because it's such easy reading and they're so fun.
I love it.
You can smash through a book so quick, and even these standalone books, the Great China Zoo, which is about a spoiler alert, it's like a zoo of Chinese dragons that no one knew there was dragons in there.
Oh man.
And it's just all these like really cool concepts. He did one called, this is the latest one I read from him, and it was Einstein's secretary, and it was just such a cool concept, totally made up. There was this lady who was Einstein's secretary, and how she lived through like the time when Hitler was around and all the wars and how it kind of happened, and interwove that story. And it's an amazing,
That's cool.
like the plot twist at the end of that book blows everyone's mind. Everyone I've recommended to, I'm like, did you get a twist? They're like, no. So it's so good. So yeah, he's a really good writer, good fun writer.
That sounds. Dan Meltzger writes, I think, like similarly to that. There's. I'll leave it at that. I got into a couple of his books. It's some It's like based on like history, but it's fictional. Kind of a cross between like what you had just shared and the Tom Hanks, the Tom Hanks,
Dan Brown.
Yeah, exactly. You knew what I was talking about. Yeah, kind of like that. Yep.
They're all kind of fun reading.
Yeah.
They're not like amazing. Oh, I'm not going to say they're not amazing writing. It's just fun.
Right.
You can switch off and escape into a different world with them.
I'm just trying to see what else I got over here.
Like Matthew Reilly, there was another one called Cobalt Blue, where Russia had a superhero human, and then America had a superhero family, and they didn't fight each other because they were so powerful. But then the most powerful superhero died, and then the Russian one started coming over and started just mangling the family. Like it's basically a superhero book, but like ultraviolet. It was crazy. And it's a short book, and it looks, when I looked at it, I was like, that sounds like it would be a good kid's book. And I read it, I was like, oh, hell no.
Not. Oh, man.
So, yeah. Got any others?
I really wish I was home. We need to do maybe a part 2 when I like collect these from home. I'm trying to think. Oh, man. Just give it.
I'm looking around behind me.
Me too.
I've got a good one for parents. It sounds really weird. Kind of anyone, really. It's another personal development one. It's by Edward de Bono. I'm probably pronouncing that really badly. But it's called 6 Thinking Hats.
Okay.
And there's no story in this one, but it's the concept of 6 Thinking Hats is around corporate meetings, where you're sitting in a meeting and everyone wears a different hat based on whatever they've got to make a decision or whatever.
I'm listening.
And the hat you wear is the person you act out. So there's always making sure that there's a balanced approach to stuff. So I actually use it with Kat a lot. When I'm like, when she comes and talks to me, I'm like, what hat do you want me to wear today? Just to make sure I don't go into fix-it mode or do something I'm not meant to. You want me to black hat it? Do you want me to tear this apart? Whatever your ideas are, you want me to attack it in a good way, like so we see where the gaps are? Or do you just want me to be grey and just be passive and just listen and not really do anything? It's a good. So like, it's a good. 6 Thinking Hats. You can find it at secondhand bookstores a lot. It's a very, very useful tool. I use it for coaching a lot too, and with the kids. I don't say which hat do you want me to wear, even though we will create a hat system for them when they're a little bit older. I kind of use the same kind of concept. Like, do you want me to help try and fix this, or do you want me just to listen to
Got it. I like that.
It's a cool book.
The one I was looking at while you were, so I have her new one that I haven't read yet, but Dr. Shafali, she wrote The Conscious Parent. And that was
Yeah.
something I read like years and years ago that really, the first couple pages I remember her saying like, and it was perfect because it was right on my spiritual journey. But she said, becoming a conscious parent it's a spiritual journey in and of itself. And boy, she just hit the
Mm.
nail on the head there because um, I'm finding myself over even like the past couple weeks, the more that I continue to tune in, it's I wish I could. Really wish. So I've been caught up in like some of my own father's reactions, like some of these programs and default settings of my
Mm.
parents, where I want to get upset and angry, and this is how like we communicated, and there's been some really cool moments recently where I'll be sitting there in this environment, and whether it's me or even like my wife, I can feel our energies change. And this isn't to pick on her, but it's more so because I get more of an opportunity to view when I see it coming from her, versus it's a lot harder to like step back and see myself in
Yeah.
this, although that's been happening too. But I'll notice that like one of my kids will do something, and it was the youngest one the other day, and like we raised our voice and we're trying to explain to him, and he went off and he ran off to the other room and he was crying, um and I for a moment I just stopped, and I was like, and he caught, like, we locked eyes, and I knew in that moment that like he was telling me like, I don't really understand why you're reacting this way to me. And it
Mm.
was so beautiful because I was like, oh, bud, yeah. I was like, and I turned to my wife and I was like, wait a minute, like, slow down, let's shift our energy. I was like, he doesn't understand, like, why are we like communicating this way? Why can't we just in a very calm manner say, please don't do that, bud? And I know that her and I feed off each other. But I'm doing such a better job now of like showing up for what that circumstance and what that um situation needs. And most of the time
Mm.
it doesn't need another unhinged parent or unregulated parent coming in. It needs someone to bring the energy down, and it's been really cool just seeing how our kids respond to it. So a lot of those books around like parenting and stuff have been really helpful for me, not only just to bring more awareness around that, but some of it also too, like what can I say in those situations. So I really like what you talked
Mm.
about with the 6 thinking hats, and I'm really interested in getting that book now, because if I can just be more mindful of at least offering those options to my kids, hey, like, but right now
Mm.
they're in such a, and it's really interesting to see how much we've already conditioned them, because if something happens, like, you'll be like, I'm sorry, and I'm like, but I don't want you to be sorry. I'm like, stop, like, you don't have to be sorry, you're just a kid, like, don't worry about it. And I just like, I
Yeah.
beat myself up so much because like I'll look at pictures of like my oldest when he's like 2 or 3 years old, and I just see this innocence in him, and I'm like, oh, I fucked him up. I fucked him up real bad. And my wife's like, no, you didn't. Like, you were doing the best you could. And I'm like, I know, but it's like, it's so hard, man. It's so hard. And I carry a lot of guilt and shame around that I work through like every day. And it, I'm just like, and now I just like every day and every time I get a chance, I just say, I love you. I'm like, I love you so much. You have no idea. Like, just to try to just instill that in him, that he is loved, and that a lot of the stuff, the way I showed up in the past is not the way that um, you have to show up in this world, and I'm trying to teach them others, so other ways.
That's a good share, man. This kind of, I saw Caddy showed me a picture of Theo 6 years ago. And he was like still in nappies, cruising around at the Spartan race where I was doing the run. Same thing, just innocent little dude. We hadn't gone through the autism shit yet. Like everything was open. It was free reign. And the guilt and shame thing is like super real. We actually talked about it at the autism workshop on Friday. Like I brought it up. It was like the guilt and shame of what I thought the right parenting was, and the mental or the load it's had on me since we were starting to learn all this stuff. And I think the week before, this has helped me heaps to sort of like not let go, but calm it down. I want to let it go because it's gone, it's happened, and just moving forward. There's like the rupture repair circle, where ruptures always will happen, and it could be ruptures don't have to be like a blow up from us. They said like when they brought it up, it's like ruptures like being on your phone when your kid's around. That's a rupture. Like all those little things. It's like you can't not have rupture. It's always going to happen. It's part of human development. And then they're like, it's the repair that is the most important thing. Going back to them and repairing the rupture is the thing that needs to happen to build resilient kids. And I was like, that made it like he's more, not calming is not the right word, but better in my head, which is really cool. And there was a graphic they showed. I was hoping I had it down here. It's upstairs. The circle of security is another one where you got to let your kids go and test and take risk and do that kind of stuff. Some kids will go real far into the risky side and take really big risk and learn shit. Some will take little. And then we just also got to have that spot where they can come back. And we were talking about it when I was a kid. It was like, go out and take risk. The loop coming back wasn't really there.
Yeah.
It was like, just go. And now it's just like, it's the loop back because it's the security part that they want from us where they can come in and say, oh, I fucked up. What do I do? And we can support that and bring it back in, which is cool. And then we're just there for like truth, honesty, wisdom, and support in the whole circle.
Are these things that you're getting through that? Or are there like books or anything that I could like read about? Like,
I think there are books, but I've got the notes and the infographics and stuff. I can take screenshots and send them to you. And I'll see if they've got books that they're referencing. So the autism workshop I'm doing is a new course they're testing. And it was really interesting. Like the one that was just gone, we had a special speaker come in, Alex. And his journey is very, like, it was super interesting. He was talking about what it was like as a kid, what it was masking and all that kind of stuff. And like halfway through, he's like, oh, there's something, like, you probably should know this because this will probably make a lot more sense. I was born female. So he's transitioned through this whole journey. So he's full chemically everything male now. And it was like that stuff he was sharing was just so deep and so full on because of the journey he had. So we were able to ask him questions like, which were really cool. Like, if you could have had anything, what would it be? Because he was sort of like suicidal and tried a few times. I've had suicidal history. My old man has too. And Theo's got self-harm talk. So it's like a family trait, unfortunately. And I was talking to him like, when you were in that moment, what did you wish you could have had? And all he said was like, just support and listening, someone to understand. And I just wrote that down like big capital letters, which is that sort of tied in that circle again. Because like you said, like parenting's fucking hard. It's really fucking hard. And a lot of us just make it up as we go.
Yeah.
Because no one's got to give us a book. There are books out there, but you got to go find them.
Yeah.
And the patterns that we've learnt are our natural subconscious reactions of shit. And then my game at the moment is trying to create as much space in my life so when the trigger happens, I can have enough space to have a gap before I react and react in the right way. And that was part of why the 1 Minute Father made so much sense to me. You can still react to the situation which triggered you, but you got to stop. It's got to be less than a minute. And then you pause and then you repair.
Yeah.
And tell them how good they are. Which I think is a big emotional thing to finish on. But
yeah,
I think it's a good thing to talk about. I know we started with like what books we're enjoying and we finished with like deep shit. But yeah, parenting's fucking hard.
That can be our next one.
Mm.
Who knows? I'll leave us with
That'd be
one
fun.
last book because as we were talking about these things, probably one of the most profound books in my journey was The Language of Emotions by Carla McLaren. Phenomenal book. So as I was navigating my own emotions, this you use it as like a guide. You can read it all the way through, but it's more so meant to be used as like a guide. So when you're feeling anger, frustration, sadness, rage, whatever it is, it's such a beautiful insight into what these things are trying to tell you. So it's not going to like, because most of the time, right, we think that we're angry over someone hitting our car, right? That's not what it is. The anger is coming from something else inside. Sure, you can be mad, you can be upset. It's going to cause a little, disruption in your life. But where does that deep-seated anger come from? Where does that rage come from? Where does the sadness come from? And she connects them all, and if I remember correctly, boils them down to essentially like there's a lot of other emotions, but a lot of them end up coming down to like, yeah, you're happy, you're excited, but like fear and sadness and anger, like all of them are masks for something deeper. And it was really profound for me. The last thing I'll share, which is not a book, but you can find it on YouTube with Greg Braden. He's got this sweet mullet. It's like done up in the 80s. But what I will share is one of the things that also helped me through it were the seven Essene mirrors. If you need the link to post it, it's like 2.5 hours to work through. But the Essene people are a Jewish sect of people. I looked this up from like 0 to 100 AD. But they came this idea that we're in we're with something in the universe, whether it's another person, whatever. We have one of these relationships, these mirror relationships with people. Yeah, and the first one is like I'm gonna butcher them, but the first one is like there's something that's not healed within you. That's why you're triggered by something on the outside. And then the other one is there's something that you're projecting or that you're judging, and that's why you're triggered by it. Though I'll leave people with the first two. There's 5 more that you can look into, but those 2 things, now that we're just talking about different things, have helped me tremendously navigating my emotions, why I might be triggered, and how I view the world. And it was really profound. So
That's pretty cool. I like that a lot because it's kind of like same thing from the autism workshop. It's like whatever behavior is going on with Theo or Ruby, like it's not because they want to behave bad. There's something they're missing that I haven't given them yet. I need to figure out what it is. Not saying I need to give them sugar.
yeah,
Just like there's something deep they're missing. There's a gap in there. I've got to, if I can figure out the gap, the behavior will probably change.
yeah. That's like
I was thinking about it with adults too.
Yeah, it's like giving someone
Like
keto. It's like giving someone keto to lose weight.
Yeah. It's kind of
Band-Aid.
like yeah. And I was thinking about like that scenario, like our triggers and our behaviors and the way we react to certain things. It's like it's not the reaction. There's something missing in behind the scenes. Like what is that?
Yeah.
And we can figure out that the next time the reaction will be different because we've plugged that gap, so to speak.
It's beautiful, man.
That was good.
I love it.
Awesome, everyone. Well, I reckon we do talk about next week. Like
Parenting.
let's lock it in. Parenting.
You know what?
We'll just call it the headline. Parenting. It's fucking hard.
Let me see if I can find a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, I'll see if she's available. I don't know if our reach is big enough for her because she's actually she's done podcasts with like Gabor Mate, but
Yeah, right.
she's one of the guys that was in my wedding party. It's his sister, so she wrote a book called Tiny Humans, Big Emotions that you can get on Amazon. I haven't purchased that yet, but let me reach out to her and just see if she's interested in having a conversation. So
that'd be cool. That's on the podcast now, so it's gotta happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll reach out to her and just see if like it's something that she's interested in doing. So
yeah, cool. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks everyone for jumping in. Catch you later.